All right. Welcome to Knex. By the end of this lesson, I hope that each and every one of you will be able to make an Express app that connects to a database and return something. So let's talk about how this fits into the ecosystem. So an HTTP request comes in. To our Express server. We match it to route middleware. And then what this is going to do is, rather than like write a SQL query or connect to a database directly or something like that, we are going to ask Knex to give us to run a query for us. Knex knows how to connect to your database, which is over here. So Knex can use a database driver. Job of a database driver is to be able to connect to a database, look up your shit, give it back to you, and you can do whatever you want with that. As a reminder, separately from all of this, we still have migrations. We still have seeds. Migrations and seeds tool doesn't have anything to do with this like database connection piece, but it comes with the same tool. It's important to know. Let's see. One other thing that's worth knowing about Knex. It is not an ORM. Active Record is an ORM, object relation mapper. This is a query builder. The difference is that a query builder is much less. There's no relationships. There's no modeling in query building. It's just writing SQL queries in JavaScript syntax. That's it. So we can do very SQL-like things, but we can use it in JS instead of SQL. Pretty cool. Big picture questions before we dig in more.
Can it query non-SQL databases? No.
Nope. Although honestly, like, wouldn't need to, like, non-SQL databases have their own tools for these. Like the one for Mongo is called Mongoose for Express. It's a different paradigm, and so the concepts don't really map one-to-one. Like, for example, you can do joins in Knex. NoSQL databases don't have joins, so it wouldn't make sense to do that.
It's the fact that Mongo is like a non-relational database, right?
Correct.
Is that the reason for that?
The thing of it is just like stores objects. That's it. Doesn't really do anything else special with them. Which is why like all the cheap boot camps are all MERN stack. It's not because Mongo was so fucking popular or anything. Mongo's almost dead. But you have to learn approximately 0 things to use Mongo. So I was like, yeah, be a web developer in 3 days. Mongo's kind of your only choice for that.
So you're building these queries in JavaScript. Are they being converted to SQL?
That's what Knex does.
All right.
And then it uses a database driver to actually run that query on whatever database. Yeah, the entire job of Knex is converting your JavaScript statement to SQL.
Those drivers are just telling it like what kind of language it has to use to speak with that database, right? To query it.
Yeah, so you have different drivers for every database. So there's a Postgres one and a SQLite one and a MySQL one. Those database technologies are different. And this is like important conceptually. We sort of like hand wave over this in mod 2. Your database doesn't necessarily run on the same computer as your server. In fact, like it shouldn't. So something needs to make that request to whatever computer is running the database. It uses something that's like HTTP, but it's not HTTP. It's a specific protocol for that database. And so this driver does that work for you. Other questions about our big picture here? All right, I want you to watch me do this. You don't try to follow along with this. We'll have an opportunity for that. Just watch. Oops. Okay, so empty folder, nothing up this sleeve, nothing up this sleeve. I make a new Express project. I install Express, Cores, Knex, and PG. So Knex is our query builder. PG is our database driver. Actually, fuck it. We'll use SQLite 3. That'll be easier to teach. So I'm not installing the SQLite 3 database. I'm installing the SQLite 3 database driver for Express. I'm going to make an index.js file. And then same things we were doing yesterday. Cool. That is a basic Express app. Get requests to the root. We'll send back a JSON representation of these dogs. Watch, I'll prove it. So I'm running that. There they are. So what we want to do is get that out of a database. So here's where the Knex part comes in. You Knex, npx, not npm, npx. This runs like programs that you install with npm, and Knex is a program, or at least it gives you one. And so npx is what lets you run those. npx Knex init. All right, so it makes this Knexfile.js. This has like a bunch of boilerplate in here for like what it would look like to configure your database connection in a bunch of different ways. Get rid of all these. And we end up with this. Connect to a SQLite 3 database. That database is going to be named this. Cool, easy. It's important to note that there's nothing magic about this. It's an object. It's an object that has one key of development. The value of development is this object, which has these two keys. No special Knexy thing here. It's just JavaScript. So now we can do npx Knex migrate make, and then this stuff works the same as it did in Rails. So like create dogs table. It goes, cool. I made this migration file for you. So I can open up the migrations, and this works a lot like it did in Rails, but a thing that Active Record has that the Knex migration tool does not is this idea of a change, where it knows how to go forward and back. In Knex, and like most migration tools, you have to specify both directions. We say it should have a string called name. Then we have to specify how we undo that. Like that. That's what going forward looks like. That's what rolling back looks like. Cool. So now I can npx Knex migrate latest. All right, it's run. We can do seeds also. npx Knex seed make. And it gives us some boilerplate for what that looks like. I really hate how they formatted this, so I always fix all this. It's so hard to read. Okay. This is also a good use case for async await. Ah, God, that looks downright readable. Almost. There we go. Ah, so much better. Cool. This is an example of Knex in action. Connect to the dog table and delete everything in there. Connect to the dog table and insert these 3 records. That's what that looks like. Okay, I can run those seeds. npx Knex seed run. And it's done. All right, last step. Over here, I am going to bring in Knex, the library. I'm going to bring in that Knex file. This works the same way that Ruby's require did. This is actually inspired by it. That's going to look for an NPM package called Knex. That's going to look for a file called Knex file because it starts with a dot. Remember from like day 3? And then we are going to make a database connection. Specifically need the development key of that because Knex file had that. This object is the thing that we want to pull out of this. We make that database connection. So now, goodbye hard coding. How about const dogs equals database dog dot select. Oh, but wait a minute. All database connections are asynchronous. So what we should do, it's going to return a promise, so we need to wait for the promise to resolve. Like that. So then I run this file, and there they are. Reading from a database and everything. Request comes in, goes to the right route. Knex is configured and connected to a database. It uses the database driver to run your query, takes the response, sends it back. Ta-da! Ask me some questions about it.
So effectively, like you're going to be making a fetch request to your Express server, and then your Express server is going to use a fetch request essentially to go to your database and then get a response. Okay.
Exactly. You can think of it as like a database specific kind of fetch request. That's what the database driver specializes in.
Is that essentially the same thing that's happening behind the scenes in Rails? We just get all that for free?
Exactly.
Does Rails use Knex behind the scenes?
No, but Active Record has all of its own stuff for this.
So somewhere in Rails, there's like essentially .then statements happening behind the scenes, but you just don't ever see them. Okay.
What else?
The database we're using in this instance, you chose SQLite 3, but it's just as easy to do this with a Postgres or.
Oh man, like this is maybe the best part of all of this. Check this shit out. So I could go into this Knex file, and let's say I use SQLite 3 in development, but in production, I use Postgres, and the connection instead goes to cool, I'm done. Like no other code in the app needs to change. Knex will figure out how to make the request differently for the different databases in different environments. That's so cool.
You also have to change that require statement to .production versus .development.
Well, what you really do is make it a variable. So you go, all right, if the node environment has been set, then use whatever that is. Like if you deploy to Heroku, they make an environment variable called node env, and they'll set it to production. And so you can read it that way. If that has not been set, you default it to development. That's the like grown-up way to do that.
So if you do it that way, can you basically do everything in SQLite until you deploy it, and then it just sort of like auto converts?
Ta-da! Now the downside of that is that SQLite can't do anything. And so like the databases need to have some of like the same capabilities, but for example, SQLite doesn't have auto incrementing IDs. Womp womp. That's kind of a wet fart. So in practice, I still use Postgres for local stuff. But if for whatever reason you were using MySQL here and Postgres here and SQLite here, Knex will do its darndest to make them all talk to each other.
That's something I was going to ask about now that we've dipped our toe into like deployment and that, because you can't deploy with a SQLite 3 database. So I was wondering if there's like really any advantage to doing SQLite 3 over Postgres in most use scenarios.
Not really. Like the real life use of SQLite 3 is embedded systems. So if you're making like a gadget, or you need to put this in a car or a toaster or something like that, like a regular database is a really gnarly way to approach that. SQLite 3 databases are just files. There's nothing else special about them. So that makes it really easy to put on Arduinos or whatever else. I guess not
It's like a localized piece of like software, hardware, or something like that.
Yeah. Or yeah, like some device that needs to do some computing, but it's not like a web app or something. SQLite 3 would probably be my first choice for something like that.
Like a robot vacuum or something like that. I'm just trying to think of examples.
Yeah, so like if your robot vacuum develops a mental map of like the shape of your room and stuff, well, it needs to store all those coordinates somewhere. SQLite 3 is like a super good use case for that. Or that is a good use case for SQLite 3. Cool. Anything else? All right, let's do it together. That's the big picture. So go ahead and pull up an empty folder. And I want you to do this first part on your own. See if you can. If you get stuck, we can go over it together. See if you can just get an Express server with an index route, pooping back anything. Try that on your own for a little bit. Go.
Is anyone else getting stuck on the migrate? I think I've got some syntax wrong there.
Oh, you shouldn't be migrating anything. Just a regular old Express app, same shit we were doing yesterday,
Oh, okay.
that just returns anything when you hit the index.
I got it to return an error message.
Hey, that's something. I'll take it. All right, let's take a look at this together. So getting started, we want to npm init-y. That'll get us in the ballpark. And let's just start with Express. Yeah, just by itself. So we're going to install Express. All right, cool. All right, so we've installed Express. We're going to make that index.js file. And in here, we need to bring in Express. We need to make an app out of it. We need to tell it to listen on a port. And we need to give it a handler. Send something back. So we'll know that we did this right if we can node index.js that file. And if we go to the URL, send something back to us. Ask me some questions about this. Throw in the code for this in chat. If you want to copy paste it.
App is just an arbitrary name. You could call it whatever you want, right?
Done. Exact same thing.
Art.listen.
Oh my God, I am 37 years old. I still think it's fucking funny. All right. Cool. Other questions about this? Neat. So let's do this next part together. So we're going to npm install Knex and SQLite 3. If you already installed these, doesn't hurt to do it again. So bring those on down. Cool. Then we're going to npx Knex migrate make create dogs table. That last part, it's just a label. We can see a list of all the migrations, so it helps to be descriptive about what they are. That's the command. npx Knex migrate make some name. Yeah. Oh shoot, we didn't do the Knex file part. Stupid daddy. All right, so I take it back. npx Knex init this. This will make a Knex file for us. Just like that. That's what's in our project so far. I like to go into that Knex file and delete any of the stuff that I'm not using, which is just everything other than this development one. You don't have to, it'll work either way. And like the default, that's fine for us. Cool. Now we want to run that migrate make command. And there she blows. We're going to go into, actually, I'm going to pause there. Give me a thumbs up on your video if like tracking along so far. See Elliot, I see Brian, I see Jay, I see Matt. TJ, how you doing?
I'm having trouble on the Knex migrate make
Okay.
table. I made the Knex file. I deleted all the stuff that you did. And I'm running npx Knex migrate make and then dogs table.
Mhm.
And I keep on running it. What's it saying? Trying to find the. Can I find module SQLite 3?
Cool. So you'll need to npm install SQLite 3. That's the database driver. So try running that and then try making that migration again.
All right, it's installing. There we go.
Good?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, let's hop into that migration that we made. Gives us a little bit of boilerplate to work with. So to roll this migration forward, we have to return. Again, this is the easiest thing to forget in these things. Has to return. If you don't return whatever you do in here, it doesn't work. And like it does not give you a super great error message about it. Has to return. Return Knex dot schema dot create table. It's the first part of it. Create table is a function, so we invoke it. first argument to the function is the table name. Cat, dog, whatever. I guess we could call it dog's table. All right, so a string representing the name of the table that we want to make. Second argument is a function. This is the thing that's going to set up the table. So it's common to write this as a fat arrow function. That's the parameter that it's going to get called with. Then we can call table.string name. You're going to be doing another one. Table.string age, or table.integer age. Just like the Rails migrations. We've got some data types that we can use. You call them, you pass in what you want the column to be called. If we were doing something that supported auto-incrementing IDs, you don't get that for free like you do an active record. If you do table.increments, that'll make a column called ID that increments every time.
But that only works in Postgres, right?
Only works in not SQLite 3. Every other
Not
database in the world supports it.
Is that something that Knex is giving you or something that Express is giving you?
What do you mean?
With that increment, how it will create the IDs?
That's the thing that your database gives you. Doesn't give you in the case of SQLite. So, and how they work under the hood is, so we have tables in databases, but that's not the only thing that's in there. Another thing that's really common in databases are called sequences. And they do things like, all right, the next time that I need an ID, what's the next one? Sequence is the thing that keeps track of that. And SQLite 3 doesn't have them, so can't support them.
And Kyle, was that table dot increments? Like, what? Could you just put that back so I could? What was the table increments? Oh, just that. Okay, great. Thanks.
If you want to change the name of the column, you can pass it in. It defaults to ID, but like underscore ID is a pretty common one, or you could call it unique key. Doesn't matter. If you just leave it out, it'll be ID.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Cool. So if we need to undo this for any reason, it's connects.schema.drop table if exists dog. That's how we undo the migration. All right, your screen should look like my screen.
So is it unable to actually remove data from the database if we don't have this in there, since we're telling it drop table?
It's unable to roll back a migration. So if you make a mistake in your migration and you go, oh shit, actually there's one other column for breed. Let me just roll that back real quick and add it in. You'll try to roll it back and it'll go, I don't know how to roll that back.
Nothing for free.
All right, let's try to run it. So the command is npx connects migrate : latest. If you did everything right, that's what you should see. Cool. Anybody have trouble with that part? So now we're going to make seeds. So we can say npx connects seed make. I always number these because it does them in alphabetical order, which feels fucking dumb to me. But I say create some dogs. So putting numbers in front of it lets you control the order more. So you should see something like that when you're in that. npx connects seed : make some label. All right. So we're going to open up that seed file that it just made for us. And all right, this is so bad that I just delete all of it. It's so hard to read. Okay, so if you want to do the async await thing that I was doing before, I'd recommend that you do. Put the word async in front of the function keyword. This turns this into an async function. It means that it is always going to be promisified, basically. We can say await connects dog del. That's going to delete everything that's in the dog table. Then we're going to await connects dog insert an array of objects. And so we had name and age. Put a couple in there. Cool. So to run this, npx connects seed run. If you did it correctly, it should look like that.
There is no auto pluralization with any of this stuff. Okay. So it's always going to be dog table, even though if we did Rails, it would be the dogs table.
Correct. And in fact, it's one of the things I like about this. I think Active Record might be the single best piece of software I've ever used. It's incredible. Using plural table names as the default is bonkers. Like, that's like a worst practice in like database table naming. Whatever, don't fight it in Rails. Like, you'll have a bad time trying to singularize your table names, but table names should be singular. Cool. All right, sanity check. Thumbs up if you're tracking along. I see TJ, I see Brian, I see Jay. Elliot, Matt, what you guys need?
Got some errors on migrations. I was kind of just trying to debug that. It says invalid migration. I created like 2 migration tables. So I was just working out the second one, and it says I need both an up and down function, but
Yep.
I have everything in there.
Tell you what, do this. You can just delete your database since it's just a file. Just RM it.
Yeah.
And then you can try running them again. That might help.
Cool.
Matt, what you got going on?
Okay, let's see. It says error while executing, and then it has the path name delete from dog. SQLite error, no such table as dog.
Have you run your migration?
Maybe yes.
Okay.
Wait. 6. I mean, this is the first error I got. Maybe I called it dogs.
You might have.
Maybe. Okay. So in that case, do I do just await, connects, dogs,
Yep.
delete? Okay.
Correct.
Let's see. I think I did call it dogs now that I think back to it. And run it again. Cool. I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent. Elliot, how you living?
I was probably going to try to roll back a little bit and rewatch almost.
Okay. All right, so our database is set up, and like to wit, so we got that dev.sqlite3 file in here. You can just use SQLite3. Look at it. Select all from dog. Hey, and there they are. So now we need our app to be able to do that. So we're going to go into that index.js file. We're going to bring in Knex. We're going to bring in our Knex file called config. Or it has to start with a dot or a dot dot if we're going to get a file. Don't need the extension. The only thing is you can require in our JavaScript file, so it doesn't require you to put an extension on it. And then we specifically want the development key. And the last part of the setup is actually making the database connection. So that's just Knex with the config passed in. Cool. To use it, database, name of your table. We need to tell it the query that we want it to do. So if we're doing a select query, just be .select. If you leave it wide open, it'll give you everything back. You can also like pass in an array of strings for like the specific columns you want, like any of that kind of stuff also. If we wanted to constrain it, we can do that too. So like where ID is 3. It's a whole syntax for this, but it's very similar to how you would do that in SQL. All right, so we select the dogs. Any database interaction, always asynchronous. So we need to then off of it. We're gonna take the dogs that we get, and we can just fire them on back. Remember, Knex middleware functions don't return anything, which actually helps us out in this case. So your route handler looks something like that.
Do you not have to parse JSON since is it already assuming it's JSON or already reading it as JSON?
Okay, so remember, JSON is a string. JavaScript objects are objects. JSON's a string. JavaScript objects are objects. JSON is a string. We're taking this object and we are turning it into a JSON string with that method. So when our front end fetches it and brings back the JSON string, it's turning the JSON string back into an object. Like, super confusing. I wish they'd named it anything else, but that response.json isn't turning it into JSON. Response.json is taking JSON and like rehydrating it into an object. And the reason we have
the fact that it's JSON already.
What was that?
I said it's responding to the fact that it's JSON already.
Correct. I take the
JSON.
JSON that I'm getting back and turn this into an object. And the reason for that, the reason we need to do that is that HTTP doesn't have objects. HTTP doesn't have data types. It's just some characters. So we need some way to take these complex data types that we have and have some way we can just send them over a network with HTTP. It's not a programming language. It's just a format for how you send messages. So JSON is a way to take those complex data types and turn them into just some characters, just a string.
Well, if we wanted to seed the database with an API, like it's just the same thing we did yesterday where we were displaying the API, you just put it in the seed file.
Yeah, you can do it that way.
Okay.
So if you do this, you should be able to node index.js. Pew, pew. See your pups. Questions?
Could you just real quick show how you would do a show method for an individual dog?
Yeah. Easy. Let's see. I don't have IDs. I need a name. Just like that. So now, if I run the app, and I just want Bixby's record, or sorry, TJ's, /TJ, and there he is.
Would create and delete run off Git, or would that be something else? Would that be a different method?
Off of Git?
A .git.
Oh, whoa. Different method. So I want to add a dog. Post. That's how you do a create. You need to parse the body before that'll work, but nothing for free. Other questions?
Can you just show real quick? I missed when you went to actually got down to just TJ. Like, what did you actually have to input to?
Oh, it was just this.
Oh, okay.
I notice you have to restart your server every time too when you change stuff.
I do. So the way we get around that is with a tool called Nodemon. So if you're tired of restarting your server every time, what you can do is go over to your package.json file and add a script called start and tell it what you want to do to start the app, like Nodemon index.js. And now, npm start, this auto refreshes every time that you change something. Anything else? Cool.
You still run node index.js?
Yep, totally can. And you can make this node index.js and just do npm start. Got options. All right, happy hunting. Cheers.